Welcome to another episode of Side Hustle Creatives. Today on episode 3, we got Coach Tim Springer from San Antonio. How you doing, Coach?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Doing awesome, Coach. Hey, man, can you do me a quick favor? Can you give me an introduction and tell the people who you are?
Absolutely. So my name's Tim Springer, originally from upstate New York. Came to San Antonio, still pursuing part of my college career after playing JUCO. That part didn't work out for me. I got blessed to be able to be around some amazing basketball community here and became a coach, trainer, which I've been doing for over 15 to 20 years now. Definitely one of the biggest training programs within the city for many years. But we've also expanded that to numerous countries, different levels, NBA, WNBA, everything of that nature. And yeah, that's our main mission is just to help players be the best version of themselves so they can give that to their team and contribute to winning.
Coach, we ran into each other maybe like pre-COVID, early days when your boy was still really young. You were running the Spartans and we did some work. But I never really got to ask you, man, what was your introduction into the game? What were your early days of basketball like?
So I actually started out with a love for baseball, but it's kind of just where I was at in upstate New York. That was the thing to do. That was the most common thing, most popular thing. I got pretty good at it. And then around middle school, I just didn't really want to pursue it, but started loving basketball. I had a hoop put out for me in the driveway. Always had that. Really wasn't enough, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity. It wasn't a million club teams or even trainers or anything like that. So a lot of us just went to the park, like you hear a lot of us adults say these days. Just loved it, played, and played. Unfortunately, some things happened in life, kind of went down a different track, but basketball came back into my life, saved my life multiple times, and then gave me a platform to basically lead up to what I'm doing today.
You mentioned something that kind of hit with me because I remember growing up, man, that we didn't have a lot of AAU ball. We didn't have a lot of dedicated trainers like they do today, man. When did you notice that trade to happen and what are your thoughts on it?
So I'll be honest, like even just coming to San Antonio from here, it opened my eyes to what is happening because that was kind of some infancy stage type of stuff when we got here. Part of it too was like, okay, the timing in the 80s and the 90s, but also like I was in upstate New York with a single mom who pinched every single penny. Like she would have had to have probably taken me to Rochester or Syracuse just to even probably get access to that, which I'm sure there was somewhere in that, but she didn't even have the resource to look it up. There wasn't Google or go on Facebook and see if you can get in a Rochester basketball group like you could maybe at San Antonio now. So it just didn't happen for me. And then I came down here and still really didn't know what to do. And that's after 2 years of JUCO, just trying to see if maybe I can work my way in because it would be a walk on. Because I played JUCO. It wasn't the most stellar career, I'll be honest, especially for what I did, from what I came from. It's amazing that I even did that. But the point is, I came here down here very naive, and then I was able to get into the scene with Home Court America. Some people put me on, met some friends, and then I started realizing what club basketball looked like, what a trainer world looked like, and that's really when it was kicking off. I remember one of my first mentors as a player was Coach Kramer, who ended up being one of my first mentors as a trainer, and you know what I mean. So, and that seems so long ago now, but that's where I got my introduction. Actually, was when I moved here and I saw how interesting it was, and then also when I started to realize probably was not going to be walking on to any college team. It wasn't like now where you can take your phone, film 3 games in a weekend, and send it to 400 coaches in one click. Back then, it was like you got to film it. It might be VHS, it might be probably DVD. Actually, let me not act like I'm that old. DVD and ship it, but you're gonna have to print them. You're gonna have to mail them. You're gonna and I was broke, so that wasn't happening, right? Just moved here, 21, 22, something like that, right? Still basically a college kid. Um, so when I saw that, I was like, wow, that looks like where I would like to go, the space I'd like to be. Team coaching a little more back then, but still the skill development because I always liked the ball in my hand. I mean, coaching like a team in the game is fun, but like I'm still like I'm not engaging in the game physically, and I like that aspect of what I do with training, and so it kind of over long term converged to that. But yeah, it was just seeing that, seeing how much fun it was. It was nice, and like probably a lot of coaches start out when they're young. I just wanted to be around the game more, but I knew, I was able to be honest with myself and know that playing wasn't happening anymore, at least in an organized fashion.
And I think also knowing that, like, the value that and the impact that you're able to make through that. Like, as somebody who was a player, like I was a player, I remember my early days of football and didn't really play football as a youth, and not knowing what the gaps and the holes and different, like I was lost. Like, and the same thing even with basketball, just kind of like, when you're not coached and you're not trained and you get to a high school level, where they're running plays and sets and you don't know DHOs and you don't know, like, street ball, but it's
Yeah,
a whole different animal, and that doesn't always translate to playing time. And I think that that was the biggest thing I saw in kind of my skill set in high school. But um, knowing that the value and the impact that you can make, and with that gift of teaching and providing to the youth, has to be inspirational and motivational for you as well.
absolutely. And the part I like, when I first started, like it was like, okay, I gotta get better somehow. Where, when, who can I rebound for? Who can I watch? Who can give me an opportunity? Can I work a camp? Back then, the Spurs youth organization, same thing it is now, just not the same size capacity what it is now. They used to have a library that you could sign up for, especially for a coach, and you could rent out free DVDs with whatever Bob Hurley's defense system, or Jim Boeheim's 2-3 zone, or Gannon Baker's being elite scorer, whatever it was, right? So I was renting them out so much and had so much of a relationship. They finally started letting me rent three a week. It was against the rules, but they let me rent like three a week because they just saw the ambition. And the blessing that I see is, okay, one, it made me better and it got me to the space where I wanted to be in this profession. But I saw how much more me being a learner helped me give more to them, that it's just become a standard that I'm still in that space. I find myself, not that I still don't learn about basketball, but maybe I don't have as big of a gap of basketball. So I've even been able to add, like, let me learn about mental health. Let me learn about mental performance. Let me learn about more about the body. Let me learn about more recovery. Let me learn about financial literacy. So when I'm with pros who need to really know what to do with their money and they don't know who to trust, I'm a trusted voice they can listen to, and I have an education. So it's always been that, and it always makes it fun because it drives me to get better. Because if I'm learning and I'm teaching, I'm obviously getting better at those things myself. So it's been a cycle that's just can't help but breed more development and growth.
And then keep adding more tools to the tool belt, right? Like, because that's what's going to
Right.
keep you kind of just growing and bringing in different people. It kind of transitions me into your next spot where you talked about your daily routine, man, where I know that that's where a lot of those sharpening of the tools and adding to the tool belt type of things come from, man. What's your daily routine like? What's a normal day like for Coach Springer?
So I'll get up probably about 5:30. First thing I do is I go straight outside and just try to have time with myself. I have two big Great Danes that are very active somehow at 5:30 in the morning. But if they leave me alone, it's my space to kind of do some breathing, to set myself, set my intentions. I'm the type where when I wake up, I've already got 40 thoughts on my mind. And that can be chaotic. So just being able to center myself there, I'll come in, start taking care of myself. Obviously, the boys, my wife, whatever she needs, they need, and just get that off. Tip one of them to school. Typically, right now, it's more my older one going to Johnson. And then it depends. If there's like pros in town, then I'm probably going to go get some kind of lift or body preparation for myself to be able to conduct those workouts. Or if not, I'm just straight working out for myself. And then I'm getting home, obviously managing anything I can with Spartan basketball or even my personal workouts, because there's like three trainers on staff. We've got 60 kids in the academy. I think I'm managing 30 of my own individual from that. So there's management, there's marketing, there's everything that goes with any kind of business. And then also trying to add anything with creative that I can. Obviously, it is part of the marketing and all that, but I enjoy it. So, being able to put a workout out there, or even lately I've been clipping, I found some old workouts, I've been chopping them up and putting them as full workouts on YouTube. Just enjoying that process as well. And then by then, I'm either back in the gym, or it's a night off from the gym with the family, but go to bed and repeat, 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 repeat.
Coach, we met on some content creation work in the past. You understand the value of content in today's world. Talk about how that plays a factor in the importance of having content, and not only for your kids and your athletes, but for your brand and yourself.
Absolutely. Well, the thing I try to keep the core of it is like what Coach Kramer, my mentor, told me. Because I remember a time, um, 'cause I actually started before smartphones, social media, all this. Like the world was different. Like these people have no idea how good they got it if they started in this era. Like, because to get the word out, especially I was an out of towner. I had no like all the other trainers and coaches were grew up here, so they had community or people remember them from when they played really well for Taft or Churchill or whatever. I had none of that, right? And so once I started seeing smartphones and social media, I said, I'm in. Like if I can go talk to more people than I should, more people than I can face to face, I'm in, and I'm building relationships, right? To the point where I actually, I think it came about. I was 23, 24, so I was doing no harm, but I was like, if you were basketball, I was messaging you, hey, I got this, and this is what we could do, and blah blah blah. To the point, I didn't say got in trouble, but I had people come back to me like, yo, look, that's someone's daughter. And I'm 22, 23, so I'm not thinking like that now. 42. Yeah, I think about that. I'm not straight up messaging someone's daughter, but when you're younger, you don't think like that, right? But I meant no harm, so I didn't. I saw no blood, no foul, right? Anyways, I jumped on that and started working. So I went back to my mentor, Coach Kramer, a lot more old school. He's near the latter part of his life when social media is coming around. I'm like, Coach, you got to do this. Are you kidding me? Like, you got to do this, Coach. You got to do this. And he said, no, I'm good. And I was like, what do you mean? You work so hard to build these relationships and talk to these people and train new people. He's like, look, at the end of the day, Tim, I'm just a musician who wants people to hear my music.
Hmm.
Meaning he didn't care if he was selling out a stadium or one person was sitting in front of him. He had a curriculum. He had this certain frameworks that he worked off of, and he did not vary from it. And that was his music. But he knew his music would help someone the same way any musician might feel that way, right? And so I felt it to the core, but I couldn't rock that way, like to a degree, to a degree. So I said, okay, well, I'm gonna flip that into a positive. I'm a musician and I need people to hear my music because I was starting to get kind of good at it. It's starting to become a craft, and it really was. Like even to this day, look at this. This is probably last 3 weeks worth, right? These are all workouts. I take this much time in detail. Probably have watched films, especially because I got a lot of high school pros in college of workouts. I I I probably haven't saved all of them, but there's a shoebox over there. There's 3 more shoeboxes in my bedroom. I save them because I take that much time, and it's the art. And I probably will never get to it. I don't know. Maybe when I pass, the family will go. We should dig into this. They probably won't be able to read it or understand it, but I take that much time with my workouts, and I see it as that art. And there's an art to like how it flows, how's the player responding to it, fatigue, stress, just a lot of different factors, right? And no player is perfect every day,
True.
mentally and physically, right? They're just not. So how you dealing with that? And it just became the art to it, and I really loved it. Like it was a game to see how beautiful. This doesn't sound corny, but how beautiful of a workout could we have? Meaning, like people go in and have crappy workouts. Sometimes players' fault, sometimes trainers' fault. I wanted the best synergy where I could relate and connect to that player and bring the most out of them and get the most for them. And when it started getting in that space, I just wanted to film it. And so I filmed it. Like I just, I wanted to hear my music. I was looking at it myself. And then when I started realizing, when apps like InShot and all these came around, I probably used something before InShot. InShot's been around so many years now. I don't remember what we used before then. I
Facts.
started chopping it and putting it out there because even though I had social media and I could connect one to one to one to one to one, I realized when I put some really cool stuff out, I had 500 people look at what I did. And I said, okay, now we're talking business. Now I just spent 20 minutes on one video, but I introduced myself to 500 people. Or if I didn't introduce myself and they already knew me, I reminded them why they should like what I'm doing. And I'm
True.
not saying click like as in interested in actually being in the gym with me. I don't really care about likes. Views are cool, like I said, because I know this many people are listening to my music, but liking it and bringing them into the gym again, because the mission behind the whole business is to help change and transform. Marketing is not sinful to me. And it's weird because, especially early on when people don't understand it, man, I used to get so much flack, people whispering behind my back, and eventually get back to me, oh man, he's the Instagram guy, he's the social media guy. But I wasn't doing corny little like stunts or, some of the stuff of people that I would really call YouTube trainers, like just gimmicky crap.
True.
Like it wasn't that. It was pure. It was what I was doing in the gym. And you've been in my gyms. Everything's pure. Everything's real. And we're about our business. Like we're here to get better. Like I don't care if you're 5 or 25 and at the top of the game. Like it's gonna be that. So I think that prevailed. And then also social media became so common. I look at now, you're nobody if you don't have it.
True.
You're nobody, at least in the public eye. Don't get me wrong. You're nobody if you don't have a presence. And it's crazy because I remember some of my peers when I was kicking and they started seeing things happen. Oh, wow, he put 90 kids in a camp. Oh, wow, someone from another country hired him and he doesn't know who they were before they contacted him. I should do this. And I would be telling them, yeah, man, jump on now. It's not too late. Like, it's okay. And they wouldn't. And now some went out of business. Some had to go do something else because they couldn't last, or they've got on, but they got on late. There's a new trainer. I just met him the other day, and we were talking, and he was like, "Man, what worked for you? What worked for you?" I said, "I was one of the first ones to hit social media hard, hard, and I was lucky. I was an early adapter. Well, it's not luck. Like if you read Malcolm Gladwell and all those guys, they talk about early adapting. And the way this world works, like if you're like right now, if you're not early adapting to AI, you're gonna be so freaking far behind. If you're early adapted even to social media now, you're 20 steps behind
True.
because it's so saturated. And that's what I was telling him. Now you have to put out, but volume doesn't work. You have to go, you got to be good.
Yeah.
Like it's funny because Facebook memories and Google Photos sends me memories all the time. And I watch my old videos where I was speaking to a game. I had something called the car series. I literally would Velcro this camera. It'd be spinning and like it was just. And I was younger, so I was just seeing some ambitious BS. Like it was good stuff, but it was horrible videos, like trash. I'd be laughed at. They'd probably share it more as like a meme of like when idiots do motivational speaking or something, right? But now, like, you got to be good
Yeah.
because there's so many voices out there.
But you took those early steps of being vulnerable, coach. Like you said a lot of things that resonate with me because it's hard, man. Like sharing my art with social and getting judged and getting feedback and you get so narrowed in on what is Tim gonna think? What is he gonna think? What is the players I train gonna think? What are the people I edit with? Like, all of that noise in your head, man, it can be overwhelming. It can cause you to just shut it down and not do it. But like not just sharing, not just sharing on social. That's one thing, coach, but you're hella even vulnerable in the workouts that you take the time to craft and bring to the players. Like sometimes they're NBA, middle school. I mean, sometimes they're middle school, high school players, but they're also. I've been in the gym with you with CJ Miles and different like Keldon Johnson and all kinds of semi-pro and pro athletes, man. Like there's a lot of vulnerability that you expose yourself to, coach.
Yeah. I mean, I think you got to, right? Like, the older ones won't trust you if you're not honest. And I think being vulnerable is one of the fastest way of being honest. You know what I mean? And then the young ones, I just think they need the truth more than ever. Like the youth have always needed the truth. That's pretty good. We should clip. You know what I mean? Like use that clip. But the youth have always needed the truth. Like when have they not? Like how are they supposed to figure out how to navigate this crazy ass world if they don't have the truth? And I think even now more so. I mean, like I've watched kids on their phones, like just to study behavior. Like I can't help it anymore. It's just ingrained in me to do all the time.
Mhm.
And I have 2 kids. I got to make sure, man, like this is the first generation where we're going to have to figure out to make sure they're not screwed up from living on their phones their whole life. You know what I mean? And phones are good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a doomsday phone person. But as far as like the impact of social media and being able to hear 4,000 voices, like you ever been around someone who doesn't turn their volume down or use headphones around social media? The other day I was around somebody, and it was like they probably listened to 400 different voices because they were scrolling pretty quick in 20 minutes. 400 voices, no qualifications, no idea of the intent. 80% of it was probably mind numbing, just kind of BS entertainment, right? Which, okay, there's a place for it, but like 20 minutes to 2 hours a day is a bit much for mind numbing crap, right? And they listen to that. Now take that and put that in a 10-year-old's hands,
Oof.
or even a 15-year-old now who's starting to have an opinion for the world, is going to start making choices for themselves, how they're going to show up in this world. Who's influencing them? I kind of don't even understand now why my mom really didn't like rap music. I kind of get it now, right? But at least there was some storytelling going on and some other stuff. It's a little different now. But um, so with that being said, I think somebody's got to be able to tell the truth and come through. Like that's why sometimes it's kind of weird to me, but I'll be the one to get on the phone, to get on the camera and be like, "Yo, get off your phone," even though they're probably consuming me through a phone. But my point is, hey, here's a message. Here's go do this. Go figure this out for yourself. Now get off your phone and do it. Don't scroll the next person, listen to the next person. Because even I've been guilty of that, right? Like, I listened to a message from Tony Robbins. Hell yeah, I'm going to implement that. But I feel so pumped up and the car ride's not over. Now I'm going to listen to Eric Thomas. And then all of a sudden I've listened to 5 motivational messages and I forgot what my plan of action was. I got some good motivation, some good knowledge that day. At least it wasn't mind numbing, but I took no action.
Right.
So I think it could go both ways. So at least I want to be on the side of you listen to me a lot and it changes your perspective towards what you need to be, of reaching your potential, being a leader, giving all to whatever it is you decide you want to do. And what you want to do is fine with me as long as it's legal and right. You know what I mean? But that was very important to me to give that truth. And like I said, man, pro basketball players don't know you're lying from 10 miles away. They'll know you're lying. And why even try to lie to them? Like everybody wants the hype and the clout and the views that come with being around pros. I'll be honest with you, I like the relationships. I like the relationships because I like their mindset. I like their dedication. I like their consistency. I like their worldly views. I like that they're willing to bet on themselves by getting up every single day and busting their ass over and over and over and over again. Maybe being told no, maybe being told they're not good enough for something, and they still go get it because they love it. And to me, that's the type of people I just like to be around. Honestly, it reminds me a lot of being in the infantry. Even though there's some crazy dudes in infantry too,
Facts.
but at the end of the day, like you, first of all, you sign up to serve your country and volunteer to potentially pass away fighting for the country. That's a whole nother wavelength. Like that's why only 2% even serve in the armed forces, and not everything in the armed forces is combat arms, right? That's why I liked infantry. Like especially if it was a squared away dude who was really fighting for the right cause. Hopefully he hadn't been dealing with too much mental at that time from whatever he went through. Even then, still a good dude, right? Those are the people I wanted to be around. Like I call them the 1%ers, right? So that's what's really great about being around pros. And there's no way you're going to have a relationship like that with pros if you're not transparent, vulnerable, and honest with them, because they're looking for a friend sometimes, a friend that they know doesn't want anything from them, or someone who just has their back 24/7, especially like the NBA guys, where who knows who's coming at them and what their ambitions or intentions are, right? Could be good, could maybe not. They might not find out till later on. I mean, how many NBA players have had wives that have done them wrong 10 years later, right? You don't know, especially when that much money gets involved. But even with like European pros who are making a modest living, they're not even what you would call wealthy. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, truth and vulnerability are key. I know that was kind of long winded, but they matter.
That was beautiful, Coach. I think the thing that you touched on that is something I'm heavy on preaching too is relationship building, Coach. I tell these creatives all day. I have a group that I kind of mentor and kind of lead, and they're youngsters, and I'm like, y'all got to get off these sidelines and just being like closed in and locked in. You got to walk around. You got to shake some hands. You got to introduce yourself because everybody's trying to get to the next level. Everybody's trying to shoot an NBA game. Everybody's trying to work for Slam, or everybody wants that next level opportunity. But you're not. Everybody's like, they're gonna find me through my work, which with social and running ads and stuff can be a reality, but there's nothing that's going to ever replace shaking a hand and introducing yourself to somebody and building a relationship.
Well, and I'll add to that. Like, obviously, I've worked with a lot of people. Some probably you mentor, and just in this community here we're in. And when you reached out to me to do this, right, or posted it, I don't remember which one it was, but either way, we've had the conversation of doing this. It was an absolute yes, just off the relationship. There might even be someone who has a better following than you, or whatever, they're hotter than you right now, as they like to frame it. And I wouldn't have been so quick to do it just based off on that relationship, because you are the type that does go invest into others, and it's there. And you're right, like, you can market and sell one time, but if you don't build a relationship, or you just, or the flip side of it, you're a jerk, or you're unprofessional, they have nothing to do with you anymore. And the whole point of business is to get a client or a customer and keep them as long and retain them as long as possible, right? Well, that's called a relationship. So at the end of the day, that's why I'm here with you right now, is the relationship side of it. And anytime you've ever texted me, I hope it's come across of whatever you need, Danny. Like, we're good. Yeah, I got you. I'll go out of my way for you. Or yes, let's partner on this thing, because I know based on our relationship and what you've put into our relationship that it's gonna work. And to me, to add to that, I also respect you because I know that what I've tried to put into our relationship meant something to you, and that's who you also wanted to work with. You know what I mean? Again, I want to work with like-minded people. So no, I agree with that 1,000%. And I do. It's so easy just to be on a film and be the next viral video, and so everybody wants to work with you. It's almost like being a musician, and like our musician at this time. Oh, you got the new hot song or the new type of beat. Let's get on it. Okay, well, yeah, that was a hot song, and you haven't made a good album since. So you know what I mean? Like, and I think you're right. That's where some of the younger guys need to understand. Like, as much as we become the Jetsons, you still need to be the Flintstones and stay true to what human nature is and how it thrives.
That's another bar right there, Coach. I ain't gonna lie. The Jetsons to the Flintstones.
Yeah,
That's a banger right there, bro. Hey, I appreciate that, Coach. That means a lot, my dog. Because I'll be honest. Um, I don't even know if you know this or not, and it's been a while since I really thought about this, but I don't know when we touched base. I saw you just post a picture of the Spartans and Tim and Cherry, who I didn't even know was on that team. Like I didn't know who he was at the time. Um, I just saw you post that picture a couple weeks back, and it reminded me. Like I kind of cringed. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, "Damn, that picture is hella blue." But we all start somewhere, and the important thing is I started. But that opportunity started off of a story that I just said to myself, I'm just gonna tag everybody I can and
I
see
remember
what
now.
and see what opportunity comes
Yeah,
my way because I'm gonna manifest something. I was big on my Nipsey. I was big on manifesting. I was big on like put it in the universe, speak it into existence. And the Spartans and Coach Springer were one of the first ones to reply and give me that opportunity, bro. So a lot of this is gratitude to you too for kind of giving me an opportunity to showcase myself, to get reps in, to better myself. And it wasn't always about cash or anything else. It was about the love and about helping each other and building, bro. And then it was a topping when I found out you were military, I was military. We kind of connected on that and kind of like we were kind of like those brothers in arms type stuff. So it's always been love with between me and you, coach. And anytime, man, anything I can do for you, like it's mutual, bro. So anything I can do to help you win, it's like minded, bro.
appreciate that.
Appreciate you. I got a couple of things I want to touch into. We're doing really good. Um, did this start as a side hustle for you, or like how was that transition like for you? This is obviously a podcast about side hustle creatives, where many of us kind of start an endeavor as a side hustle, but it's something we really are passionate about and want to be our main hustle, but it ain't always the opportunity. It ain't always the way the opportunity presents itself. So I'm curious, how did this start in your shoes, in your eyes?
So yeah, I would say it was a side hustle, because at that point, Like I came down here, the first thing I got was a restaurant job because I had been working restaurants upstate New York. So I was like, okay, I can get in and do this fast, right? I can get it. Some. I was at Dick's Last Resort. It was the funnest and the worst job all at the same time. And I was trying to play. I was just gonna keep playing and keep playing. And because, like I said, I didn't really know the process of getting recruited. Um, I gave myself, I said, like, I'll give myself this year because after a year, you have residency as far as in the college's eyes, and then tuition is less just in case I didn't get a scholarship or whatever it may be, right? And so I was playing and playing and playing. I was actually in a pizza shop. This was actually almost right after I came from New York, and I was, a New York kid that had seen the other side of the track. So the kind of code you walk around is you don't really talk to people. You don't have people can mind their own business as well, and you just keep it pushing. But I remember I'm in a pizza shop, and then like 6'6", 6'7", and another 6'6" dude come in, and it was almost like I heard the voice talk to me. He's like, "Yo, you need to go talk to those people." And I just went, "Yo, this is who I am. This is what I'm trying to pursue. And I don't know anything about the basketball world here in San Antonio. Can you help me?" Luckily, the one guy was training the two other guys. And so he started training me. He let me do clinics, camps, anything I could do. That's when I kind of got into Home Court America. I was still working restaurants for a very long time. And then I remember um, this is kind of a funny story, and I hope it hits okay with anybody who hears it. Mind you, I was 22 when this happened. There was no Hooters in upstate New York where I was living during college. And a 22-year-old boy doesn't think about much else but money and the other gender, right? So I get to San Antonio. I'm like, oh, I'm a good cook because I was a pretty good cook. I was good, I led a lot of kitchens in New York and stuff like that. Like I was, if not the manager, the guy they put all the work on, like the manager, but didn't pay him as it. So I was like, boom, I'll get into Hooters easy. And I'm 22. Like this is gonna be great, right? And they said no, like right off the rip, no. So I got other jobs. This one I got Dick's Last Resort and all these other jobs. And so weird enough, I'm working a lot of restaurant jobs again, leading up, being a leader, almost being a manager or a manager, whatever. And then a Hooters job comes around again, and I take it. But at this time, I'm just sick of restaurants. And I mean, I was older, so I was starting to mature too. It wasn't like, oh yeah, Hooters is a dream job because there's girls there. Like that's dumb. Like it was like quality of work. I was dishwashing and you know what I mean, bagging pickles. Like I just knew there was something more for me, and I was starting to kind of figure out the basketball lane. And I was trying to get into Home Court America as a trainer, and this guy that was leading it, who's still a friend of mine and a mentor to me, which is crazy, would not let me because he knew I was working for the guy who was giving me opportunity over here.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me this later on, like I knew how hungry you were, so I knew making you wait for it was only going to make you that much better at it. And sure enough, a court monitor job came about at Home Court America, which means I'm the guy who holds the clipboard during pickup and signs people up so there's no fights about who's on and who's not. Like, and I had to take the job. That's like the only way I was going to get into Home Court America, which was like one of the main resources of how I was going to become a trainer because the other guy wasn't doing it very consistently. And he kind of ended up actually being kind of shady and screwed me over, but that is what it is. So, anyways, um, I take it and I quit my dream Hooters job. And I said, whatever I got to do here, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to get in. And I worked, I stayed, kept my head down, did what I did. I think I even had to pick up another restaurant job just to make the bills work at that time. And finally, I got that training job and I ran with it. And I got lucky. Kind of the people who were leading it were leaving, either go to do their own thing or, went for a different career path, whatever. And I got a chance to lead and I was crushing it. Like I had so many kids signed up. They made me do camps of about 150 kids every single week of the summer. I was doing private training and group training and all that. And then from there, that's when I realized that I want to make it for real, for real. So that's when I joined the National Guard, went to UTSA, got my coaching degree, and started Spartan basketball while I was at UTSA, and it's been in the business ever since then.
That's crazy, coach. Like that's a message to a lot of the people now in the game because so many of us, especially now, we want that instant gratification. We want I'm guilty of it, coach. Like I want it now. I'm tired of waiting for that next level opportunity. I feel like I'm good enough. I feel like, and the fact that you said that somebody knew you were ready, but they knew you were hungry, and they knew that you were gonna, it was gonna come to you no matter what. But the timing was off, maybe. So maybe just trusting the journey, trusting the process, trusting the timing, man. That's a key message for anybody listening today, bro. Is if what's meant for you is meant for you, and it can't be stopped.
Yeah, 100%. As you get older, you're gonna find out that's the truth no matter what. It's like universal law. But when I was 25, 26, however old I was, you weren't telling me no, and I couldn't fail. I'm not going back to New York with my tail between my legs because I failed. No, I'm gonna make this work, and I'm gonna make it work in what I had to do, no matter how long I got to wait or how hard I got to work. So the now I'm like, okay, that was like a normal waiting process. Now, especially being an entrepreneur and I've had to wait for this or wait for that or be told no 6 times before I get a yes. Like that was a normal waiting process. But yeah, it seemed like the world wouldn't move for me. You know what I mean? So it's definitely something the younger ones need to realize. Like the world's going to show you got to wait longer than you think you do, no matter what. At some point, you might as well just embrace it now and just engage that journey. You know what I mean?
Amen. Hey, coach, I want to shift gears and talk a little bit about your son in San Antonio basketball, man. You got a son that you've coached pretty much all his life, um, and he's now in sophomore, junior at Johnson.
Sophomore.
Um, um, what's that kind of journey been like for you, like coaching your son?
It's been interesting. It's been fun. Obviously, it has its challenges. I like it because the fact that it puts your relationship under a microscope because basketball puts your whole human behavior under a microscope. And then when you add two people who are connected in that manner and have a different relationship besides that, it puts in a huge microscope. So that's the challenge is you got to be mindful at all times. You got to be very thoughtful at times. You have to balance yourself amongst that person or that child of yours and the other kids that you have and make sure it's fair, it's equitable for everybody and things of that nature. But it's been fun. Um, we've learned a lot about ourselves. I think we learned a lot about each other. I think it has made us stronger because we've had manufactured struggles. And what I mean by that is we didn't have to go through something like being evicted or, something that, I'm not going to live right now, but something crazy that would form a struggle that in real life, because basketball creates its own struggles, right? Whether it's a training or it's a game or it's a tournament, it's a season, there's struggles that go on. And we went through them together. And it really, I think, brought our bond together to actually, we're at this point this summer I am not coaching him this summer. So now he's fully not. I mean, he's trained by me, but not coached by me. And no, we put him over behind the scenes with Tony Crocker and CJ Miles. One of the best things we could have done. Um, and I think it's going to be great because I think he did get a lot of advantage from that. Just as my younger one has as well, where I'm letting others coach him there. But now it's like, okay, here's everything we've done together, and obviously you've gotten it the right way. So go with this man who I trust to lead you, or men that I trust to lead you, and become more of a man by taking that to them and letting them figure out how to use that through you. And I think, I'm already seeing benefits, even though it's only been a few weeks, but I'm excited to see like what's it look like by the end of the summer. Where here's 2 full seasons now back to back where I haven't been on the sideline or at the team practice every time. And what does he create from it? You know what I mean? That's going to be very interesting to see, especially with him. He's got a big role next year with Johnson. They're going to be asking him to play point guard. He's going to have a big role. And, you know, what do you create from what I gave you as you spend the summer with Tony and CJ? And how do you then on your own flip that into this new really big role you have for Johnson High School, who just came off third round playoffs? Like, don't think the expectations are small. So how are you going to build yourself to be ready for what is in front of you when that comes?
That's pretty big for the city, wouldn't you say? Like to see them two, along with some others, team up to give back to the city of San Antonio. Man, do we need more of that here in San Antonio? Is that something that you see as beneficial?
Yeah, I think it is. Okay, I've done well in helping others, whether it be how many of our kids we've helped make the varsity, the hundreds of kids we've helped to play in college, or some we've even taken from high school through college all the way to pro. And me not having a immense background is like, let's say those two guys. That's great, but it also took a lot of work and a lot of time where these guys are kickstarting this in the infancy stage, and they're already in a space to give so much, and they'll learn too on their way on their journey. I mean, me and CJ spent damn near 5 to 6 years in the gym together. I know CJ. Even at the end of his playing career, he was trying to learn everything he could about the game. This is a guy who skipped college to make it to the NBA and lasted like 15 plus years. Even in his last days of like professionally playing, he was trying to learn as much as he could about the game or anything he could to benefit it. And so you got two guys who are already at that stage, have been through it all. You look at it, even Tony Crocker's little brother was playing D1 and was in March Madness. They just got knocked out by Maryland, but they were in the tournament. You know what I mean? Like he's also shown that, and from a training standpoint, that he can recreate more of what he's seen already. Now, not everybody's going to have the same gifts as a Tony Crocker or a CJ Miles physically, genetically, and things like that. But at least he can give them the tools, and what they do with those tools from there is on them. You know what I mean? And with CJ, I tell people this all the time. Like, number one, he's one of the smartest basketball minds I have ever been around, ever. And I've been around Hall of Famers, players, and coaches. And I'm the type who's going to ask a million questions if they allow me. Like, CJ is one of the greatest basketball minds I've ever met. The other thing that CJ is great, CJ is a great teacher. Like, he understands not only how to see the game and make it simple for himself, he knows how to see the game and make it simple and communicate it to others. Because there's been times I had younger pros in gyms with him working out, things like that. You've seen that as well with me. And man, we're in the middle of workout and he's going full speed, and he stops it real quick and he says something to them that either he saw that maybe I didn't see, just a different angle, different view, or different perspective, or he saw they weren't getting how I was addressing it to them, and he stopped it and broke it down in a different way, or an even more simple way at times, better than mine. And I have no ego, I can say that. And for a young pro, that turned on the light bulb for them. So I've also seen his teaching ability, and it's through the roof. So for me, yes, it's great. It's too bad we can't have more of that. I'm not opposed to the guys who haven't played at that level, as long as they're working their tail off to be the best version of themselves, so they can give to whatever level they can give to. You know what I mean? Um, it just does a lot. And then, yeah, like, I came from an environment upstate New York where not many people went to college, so nobody was thinking about playing college basketball. Now you have a Warren San Antonio kid who went and did all that and is coming back to show you. How has that not become more believable in your eyes than the other end of the spectrum from what I saw? Now it's, oh, this is a San Antonio kid who went and did this. Or even Dallas. Like, Dallas is different, but I think even Dallas being close in relativity, it benefits. You know what I mean? Whereas, oh, if CJ was from Idaho, I don't know if it relates as much to a kid, right? So these are guys that are doing it. And CJ lives here. CJ's been living here. So he's from Dallas, but he's a resident here now. He's part of San Antonio Circle, right? His brother is on UTSA staff, and he is around those games a lot and other stuff. So we couldn't ask for anything better in this moment. Like, more experienced, very well educated leaders. It's funny. We were at a tournament 2 weeks ago in Dallas, really competitive. And like, look, Tony's engaged. Like, Tony's talking, because Tony specifically teaches my team, Tim's team, but CJ and them are in the gym together, or CJ might sit on the bench with them when they play, whatever. Tony teaches his tail off the whole time. So we had like 2-3 weeks of practice buildup, and then we're in Dallas, and like the game's going. Any other coach would have yelled a long time ago. Finally, like, something happens in the third game, championship game, and Tony yells at somebody. And I was like, damn, that's the first time I've heard Tony yell, but Tony has always got his message across.
Oof.
Always got his message across. The kids respond to him. The kids learning from him. And this is the first time I've heard him yell in almost a month. And usually the beginning of the season is when you're doing the most yelling, from my experience, right? Because they're just not getting it yet, right? And so to me, like, that's also what we need. It's not just what their playing experience is, but we need guys who like really can come in here and understand, like, these kids got to get taught the game. You got to be patient with them. You got to understand that they're not the kid that you were. So, like, one of my things I hate the most is when coaches like, oh, well, they're not the same kids we were. No, they weren't. It was a totally different world. And kids are influenced by their environments and their worlds. It's a different world. So you, the coach, need to adapt to them because this is the creature you're working with now. I can't change my dog to a cat when my dog's doing something stupid. I can't do that to a kid. And so to see two guys, again, regardless of the playing experience, that's just icing on the cake, that are in here and doing it that way. It's fun. I'm bored as heck when I take them to practice, but I enjoy it at the same time because I'm watching good coaching, good basketball, good teaching. So for them to do what they're doing, I'm forever grateful. So
It's almost like you have to push different buttons as a leader and a coach. Like that same rah button doesn't work for everybody. It might work for somebody who was born a dog or who's been through the struggle or something like that, but like that ain't gonna work for everybody. And so being a coach, you got to be able to decipher that, don't you say?
I'd say so. And then, just knowing the kid, like, has the kid already experienced that? If they very experienced like brutal honesty or very straightforwardness, then okay, maybe they can handle it again. Or if they haven't, you got to kind of warm them up to it at times, right? And then just knowing, yeah, I think when you got to get your point across, and less is always more if you do it right.
You think IQ is DNA or that's something that you can be taught? Because you talked about the IQ of CJ and kind of how he's such a smart basketball mind, and I stress a heavy importance on basketball IQ and knowledge of the game and being able to anticipate different things. Do you think that's something you could be taught or that's something you're born with?
I think you can be taught, but there may be a lower ceiling on what you can do. It's really anything, like even singing. Okay,
True.
maybe if I worked at it for a year, I could probably be good enough singer to, I don't know, join my church choir or something, maybe. But I'm not going to record an album tomorrow, right? But Beyonce probably did have something before even she was taught and groomed and everything that gave Beyonce's potential in singing to be that, right? And I think um, it's kind of the same with the players. So, and I think love has a lot to do with it. And I'll use Tim's example again. Like Tim at a very young age would watch full games, just sit there and watch full games when most kids would be bored in 5 minutes. Or he would sit there. He would sit there during when I would train CJ on the baseline because he'd go shoot on the other hoop and then get bored. This is like 7 or 8 years old, and then sit there for an hour, like hour and a half, and watch me, or maybe an hour and a half, but like let's say like 30 minutes. Watch me go through a workout with CJ. Then he'd walk over to his hoop. He'd shoot again. He's still 7 or 8. Like attention span's not really there. He'd come back again for another 30 minutes, and then he would do it again with George Hill, and then he'd want to be in the gym, and then he would, even to this day right now, he might lift. He might have a team practice. He might have a skills workout with me. And then in the evening, you might still find him outside shooting on the hoop on his own. So a kid that has that, which is just the natural instinct of love and a gift for that, I think has the higher ceiling of getting that stuff and doing more with it because it's intriguing to them. Or like Kobe used to say, it made them curious on how they could make it more or do more with it. You know what I mean? And I think if you can get that aspect, then that really matters as well. And then the other thing that I've learned more about now is just the micro skill of knowing how to learn. And a lot of people I don't think understand. They go, well, I listen and then I do. No. Some people don't know how to pay attention. Some people know how to pay attention and not extract information. Some people know how to pay attention, extract information, but then not own the information and make it their own. And everybody's at different stages that are skill sets. And the unfortunate part right now is we do have a problem, kind of epidemic of it's hard for people, and especially kids, to pay attention. So they're still at home plate. They haven't even got to first base. And so, but anyways, that was kind of side note. But
No,
I think all of those things matter.
I
And I think
agree.
passion and love starts with it. And then environment, because I'll use this example. My younger one loves basketball too. He started loving it later in life. Like Tim's first word was ball. The younger one, he loves it now and he's all in too. And I was like, man, there's gonna be so much catching up because he didn't start as young, whatever. And as he got into it, and at first, yeah, some rough patches, but then as he got into it, he started doing it more. You could tell that even when you maybe thought he wasn't paying attention, he must have been, because the concepts and everything came so simple to him.
Right.
So maybe that's the genetic, he's got it in him too, or maybe even that adds environment to the equation as well.
He's been around it all his life, so he's just absorbing it.
Yeah, no, he had no choice.
What are your thoughts on basketball in Texas though? As you've been, you coming from New York. I mean, New York basketball is obviously very different, but Texas basketball has pretty much kind of made a name for itself. I mean, they've always kind of had a name for themselves, but I think even more so these last 5 to 10 years with as much noise that they've been making on the national stage. What are your thoughts on Texas high school basketball?
I mean, Texas right now definitely is a basketball hotbed. Um, in so many ways, I think the athletes as well that adds to that, right? Um, like you go to Kansas, and don't quote me, I'm not an expert on Kansas, but there's a lot of good basketball, but probably not the same athletes as what you're going to find in Texas, right? So you get the athleticism mixed with the good basketball, we're going to be in demand. Now that's a good thing, because that means a lot of these states, surrounding states, which is where I put a lot of the players that I helped get to college, they went there. Um, they're in high demand of that. But at the same time, it's really hard to get recruited out of here because it's so saturated with talent and ability. And so it's a good thing. I mean, that means now that players are going to have to be even better and level up, which is just going to push Texas more. And if you can put yourself in the right space, you got a good chance of getting recruited, whether it's in state or out of state, because college coaches want Texas kids, like we said, because of the ability, because of the athleticism, because they've shown that they can compete at that national level. That it really is a win-win. And at the end of the day, like the basketball, everybody's basketball life is so short, even for pros. Think about it. Some pros retire by like 27. They barely become an adult. I mean, the game sped them up their that adulthood, but they're still in the rookie season of becoming an adult, right? And the career is done as a pro.
Right.
And so even if you just end up varsity at best, like wouldn't you want to be in an environment where you're getting competition, you're being challenged, and you're pushing to be the best that you can be, because that's the only way you're going to keep up? Like I would rather have that than, oh, I'm the man in some watered down, nobody heard from me town. You know what I mean?
Agreed. Um, it brought me to it made me think about some of the women that you did, some of the girls basketball hoopers that you train here too locally, even like Ryan and I think you were training with Ramsey. I think she just went to St. Edwards recently. Even the girls are starting to make kind of a stamp here locally in San Antonio with kind of SA Finest and different programs around here, elevating the game of women's basketball. What have you seen come from women's basketball lately here?
Um, I see a lot, and I really like it. When I was trying to level up earlier in my career, whether it was being a coaching or training, I actually got, whatever reason, I think some God divine intervention, but I was given a lot more opportunities on the girl side. Um, Varsity coach at Castle Hills, being able to start those club teams that I had that turned into the Legends, where the Legends in themselves put over 100 kids in college. Um, WNBA intern with the Stars, and just some of the pros I've been able to work with. Like one of the closest players I ever got closest with, well, I can consider family, is Danielle Robinson, that used to play in the WNBA. Just different things like that. Even me going overseas to Italy was because of the female game. And so I'm forever grateful in it. I'm forever always trying to contribute to it, even though with the boys growing up, it pushed me more into the boys side with my sons growing up. But I love it. I tell people this all the time. Like, it's fun coaching the boys, especially if you're a man, right? And the athleticism, the physicality goes with it, especially if you're, we all love that, right? As guys, right?
Right.
But it's a pleasure to coach and train the ladies, because their attention to detail, their listening, that whole knowing how to learn is probably usually at a little higher level, especially compared to boys in the teenage years. And they're grateful, they're respectful, and they're freaking hard workers too. And to me, like as a trainer, especially this time, I really only want to work with people who kind of have those qualities at times. I don't mind helping someone teach someone to get those qualities, but it's a lot more enjoyable when people come with those batteries included. Everyone's like, "Oh, well, you train a lot of high level. You got." Yeah, well, it's just right now the stages I'm at because I've done all the other stuff. It's the most enjoyable right now. It is what it is. You know what I mean? And I'll give a great example. So Mia Ramos is one. Sometimes I will let her come train with my guys group, my varsity guys group, my top high school group, and all these guys are dudes, and they can shoot it, and they're skilled, and they're smart. Some of them are probably going to end up in D1 colleges, hopefully. You know what I mean? D2 minimum, and I let her come in because A, she skillfully can stay up with them, and two, 9 out of 10 times, she's going to pay better attention to detail, or she's going to be the better communicator. And it's actually easy to use that parallel to the boys because no boy wants to be outdone by any girl,
True.
especially basketball court. It's just ego for a young boy, right? Well, it's undisputed. If the boys aren't paying attention, and Mia Ramos is, Mia looks like the one. You know what I mean? And the boys don't like that. And it gets my point across without me having to yell or chew them out so much, right? And it's not the only reason. I give that opportunity to Mia because she deserves it and what she can do for that. There's a couple others that have happened. Ryan's been one of them and other ones like that. It's not surprising that the girls game in San Antonio has grown more based on what I said as far as characteristics of the players. Because as long as they have the resources and the right leaders in place, then it shouldn't be that hard anyway because they tend to do things the right way, and you just got to lead them. So like Ray is amazing. Ray's done so much for the game, and it's part Ray's ability and the network and the community he's built as well. And but the girls help make that easy. It might not be as easy on the guy's side. You know what I mean? And I've seen that firsthand in different programs. Or but there's also great Devon from Player First. Vase's been doing a great job with SA Hoops, and there's more out there, and there's more coming out to do that. That I'm really excited about that. When I actually left the girls' game, I was kind of like, man, maybe it's wrong for me to do this because maybe I'm gonna pull out a great resource. Because at that by the time I stopped doing the legends to start the Spartan team that where we met, we were probably putting anywhere from 7 to 10 girls into college every single year.
Damn.
So I was like, man, I can't. So like for 2 years, I didn't coach, but I brought in the Toro sisters, one's at MacArthur, one's in Houston, and they do an amazing job. But I had to let it keep going without me coaching because we were helping so many. And because at that time, the amount of leaders in their ability wasn't the same, and so it made me feel that way. If I had to stop doing it today, I wouldn't be worried because there's so many more other outlets for them here and good leaders who are finding these kids who are good listeners, good workers, high character, XYZ, and are committed. And so I'm not surprised that San Antonio girls basketball is on the rise. You know what I mean? Like it's just we have the right people in place for that to grow so fast.
Yeah, there's a lot of gyms I didn't even think about, coach, but you're absolutely right. Like the mental state and the mentality of girls, maybe it's the age that they're at on that platform. I mean, at that point in time, but absolutely right about being able to absorb and implement like probably a lot quicker and faster because they're paying attention to those details. And I had no idea that you trained Mia Ramos. I saw her at state against Aaliyah Chavez this past month, in the way wanted to, but she's she's young and she's definitely very capable, man. She's going to be somebody to watch here in the very near future, I feel. You also mentioned something that I kind of want to transition to is overseas. I always ask people that, compare San Antonio to Dallas and Houston and what does that look like? But you have a whole different perspective that I hear sometimes people say that have been overseas or that came from, different parts of the globe that know that international basketball compared to, American basketball. Speak on one for first, speak on your time overseas and kind of like what that experience was. And then just you as a lover of basketball, speak on the differences in the game that you've seen between, European and international basketball compared to here in the United States.
I love what happens in Europe with basketball as far as their relationship with basketball. Not to say there's not entertainment value or different things that there, but it's usually a lot more pure as far as just basketball. And this is a knock towards the NBA, but things like having the NBA in our culture, and even everything that happens in our culture now, where it's always a social media post, or it's something, again, and not to knock the creatives, but it's like it's more for that. Like, people are playing basketball for that stuff, and in America, and it's crazy because we sometimes get wrapped up in a lot of that, not realizing the resources we have, because there's some beautiful, amazing things going on in basketball. There's some great resources in Europe, not as many. Like, there's the where I was at in Valencia, Spain, when I did 2 weeks of camps over there. Like, they have great resources. They have a eight or 10 court facility, beautiful. Like, there's pro teams there. They have structure. They have development. I mean, to the point where I was going to teach some stuff at the camp, and the director comes down to me then, like the Wednesday, it was like week-long camps. He goes, tomorrow you don't teach any pick and roll to anybody under this age. And I was like, what? Yes, sir, but what do you mean? And he was like, we don't do that. That's not what the way we process and develop our players. Okay, fine, yes, sir. It won't happen again. But I thought, as I'm walking home, because it was a walk back to my apartment, I was like, that kind of makes sense, though. I see his logic. I might not agree with it, but I see his logic. And so there's really good stuff like that. But then there's other places where, man, they were, thank God I got to go there and interject something with like a camp or whatever I did over there, because they don't have a gym on every other corner. They don't have club teams. You know what I mean? Where I lived in Ragusa, so I was part of the pro staff on the A1 women's team, but I was also in charge of um, the high school department as far as player development. And like, the main team were girls who were either A, they were going to end up being pros, they were good enough if they were, or B, stop playing basketball, or C, might play low level pro and try to work their way up, or they'll just go to college. And I would say they're the equivalent of what varsity girls are here, right? Some of these kids left their town to go live in Ragusa, hardly ever saw their parents, and went to school, did everything the same, but probably worked, for sure, mandated harder than what a lot of the kids in America have to go through. Now, kids in America supplement with trainers and club teams, whatever, but just what they were meant, like the expectation of being part of Ragusa. You were going to do this much lifting, you were going to do this much skills training, you were going to practice this many times, XYZ. And the most they probably got social media wise was if the program was good enough to promote them in some sense or post them, and they weren't. They couldn't care less about social media. They weren't getting free shoes. They weren't getting ranked. I mean, maybe they were getting ranked, but it wasn't like this 6 different evaluating resources saying this kid the top this and this, and the top kid this and this. There was none of that. There was no fake offers. There was no. They were literally just there because they loved the game that much and they wanted to see what they could do with it. And I found that to be kind of the more general feeling of basketball overseas.
Were you surprised by that?
No, because I know America tends to trend more towards that stuff that they do, but I guess experience they give you a lot more appreciation for it. Like Tim and Lorenzo both came with me to Italy, and interacted and even befriended a lot of those young girls, or I put them in the practices sometimes just because, I mean, like, they were middle school, so they're still playing varsity basketball players, and they started to see it. And I'm appreciative that God gave me that opportunity to show my sons that, and see people who really took basketball for the love of it. And I'm not saying people in America don't love it, but I do know there's a lot more of loving it for what they can get from it than seeing what they can give to it.
True. Coach, earlier before we started, you kind of gave me a rundown of like kind of what the next couple of years look like for you, kind of your 2 to 5 year window plan. Just kind of want to give you an opportunity to kind of touch base on that and kind of let people know kind of what you got going on now and things that you offer here locally or even around the state.
Right now, Spartan basketball and the training that I'm doing with that is rolling really strong. It's myself, 3 other trainers. We have an academy of, I want to say, last time I counted, we were around 62 players in that alone. And it's always growing. Younger, 3rd grade through 8th grade, just really giving them those fundamentals, to get into a space to be a strong middle school player and prepare them for high school. We have a separate division for high school as well. Myself and my top trainer, Jalen, who does an amazing job. He's actually one of the first players I ever trained. It's really been fun retraining him in a different sense,
Nice.
from the business standpoint of it or industry standpoint of it. And we have high school development we're doing there. And that reaches everything from a young freshman or a JV underclassman kid, or even a junior kid who's maybe behind a little bit, to also separated to varsity kids who are trying to be first team all district, first, all state, trying to play in college and helping them succeed there. And then we also have college and pro segment that I pretty much lead, when they come home. And I mean that right now, that's the run. It works. It benefits my family in multiple ways besides just paying some bills. The boys get to be a part of it. Tim's even at a point now where he comes into the academy and he helps teach some of the younger kids, which has been really cool to see. I know Lorenzo will be right behind him. It's just Lorenzo's still too close in age to those kids. I'm not sure if it'll resonate yet, but just really, really scale that. I think maybe when Lorenzo graduates high school, which we still have a little bit, I'll probably find myself overseas a little more, so I'm not missing things at home as much because they're gone. And whether that means a team, or that means just touring around, doing camps, or maybe finding some programs that are underdeveloped in certain countries and going and helping them evolve that. Looking at actually do something like that in Mexico this summer. It's gonna be pretty cool. Um, that's probably where I'll be. I've just found that God had a place for me in San Antonio to really do what I can and pour into the city and give to San Antonio and its youth, not just basketball, but basketball too. But as I've been able to go overseas, China, Brazil, Italy, Romania, wherever, uh, I see He has a vision for me to be doing this at that scale. And it is kind of fun just being different cultures, learning different languages. Like I love that. It's the challenge of it, right? Every day you got to try to adapt to something, and it's fun. So I think that will probably pick up. Not to say that Spartan basketball will disappear. That's why I'm building the leaders I'm building in the program now. So whether my face is in the gym or not, it's still great training that people can benefit from, and which it is right now, and it's just going to continue to be because I got some guys who are really committed to the long term with me, and so we're just going to keep going and give back every way that we possibly can.
I can't wait to see that happen, Coach, and I know it's going to happen because I've seen the growth where now you're putting people in place to kind of run the cog and be the machine for you, while you allow you to maneuver and kind of work on the business and not necessarily always in the business, and just kind of seeing what's that broader range and that broader scope for you. I'd be mistaken and I wouldn't be doing the space justice if I didn't ask you. You dropped already plenty of nuggets for people of players, creatives, trainers, but one more time specifically for the trainers that might see this or they will clip this and provide for them. What is some advice for some new trainers coming up in the game in today's world, man, that you would offer to somebody who's interested in doing what you do?
Gotcha. Well, number one, I would say this. I don't care what level you've played. I don't care what level you have trained, as far as like if you've trained some in NBA, WA, like nobody owes you anything. And a lot come in, especially if they have played. I'm not talking like the Tony Crockers or CJs. They're on the other side of the spectrum. But there's a lot that come in and go, oh, I was Division One, or I was, low level Poland, and so you should this, and I should get this, and I shouldn't have to work. Like nobody owes you anything, especially if you're transitioning. You're not a player anymore. You're a trainer. You're starting a new career. And even like I said, if you get to the space of, oh, I trained this NBA player, it really doesn't mean much. Like it might do some good for some marketing, but like it really doesn't mean much because at the end of the day, whether you're working with another pro or you're working with a kid who's 7 years old, that pro and that parent, all they really care about is they or their kid is getting better now, and you can help them. They might have listened to you and gave you a chance more because you trained X, Y, and Z, but that doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? And I think that entitlement has to go. That part I see way too much. Um, and the other side of it, I would say, is this. And I always get flack for this, but you got to understand the context where I'm coming from. But I believe you got to get good at business.
Hmm.
Get good at business, not just the marketing and selling, but get good at business. And the reason for that is this: it's hard just to side hustle this. And it's hard to really side hustle anything sustained, especially as you get older, things get more expensive, your family grows, XYZ. but don't learn business. And the flack I get is because they think, oh, he's another one of those guys that just wants money. Well, first of all, if you don't have money coming through your program, you won't last because things cost,
Thanks.
including starting with gyms and then staff, and then at some point you have to pay for some kind of marketing, especially if you want to make it ahead. So treat it like a business, learn business, put people in place with the things that you're weak at, which is part of a good entrepreneur. By the way, too, part of the definition of entrepreneur is taking a resource and turning it into something else that serves others. So it's really okay to be about business. It's not okay to be greedy. It's not okay to be deceitful, but it's okay to be about business. Business is why this country has lasted as a free enterprise as long as it has. If
True.
it didn't work, we wouldn't be working like this. So check your ego at the door, as one of my mentors, Phil Handy, says. Check your ego at the door. It doesn't matter whether he says all the time, I don't care if I'm training LeBron or 8-year-old. I'm bringing the same energy, and this should be for you for that. Nobody just wants to hand you anything. And learn business. Learn how to be in business for a long period of time. The average business lasts, what is it, 2.5 years or something like that? Or is it 5? I don't remember, but still, that's not a lot of time. By the time you start and it just becomes a side hustle and you start getting some momentum and you start looking like a business, most people go out of business. And that's for all businesses. That's not just our industry. So, and this industry is hard and it's becoming very saturated. Very saturated. So learn business so that you have structure, so that you have competitive advantage, because this is a competition, even though collaboration is the way to really move, but it is a competitive thing. People will take your kids if you're not taking care of them. And well, they weren't your kids to begin with, but the kids are training with you. And you got to think long term. I never thought COVID was going to happen. I never thought the world was going to shut down. I wasn't ready for that. I wish I'd had more infrastructure. I wish I'd had more savings. I wish I'd had other alternative routes already in place that I could have scaled instead of starting from ground zero during COVID. You don't know when you build up to having trainers and one's going to leave you. You don't know when you're going to lose a gym that you thought you had forever. So the only way to do that is be good at business. And honestly, you're serving people better that way, which in turn does help you. Then you can free up time. Then you can make more money to help you and others, because not being greedy, wanting money. Nobody survives in this country without money, in this world without money, to be honest, unless you're going to go hunt and gather again, right? So learn business. And that was very repetitive, but it's funny how lazy some of these people are about business. And they're getting in, but they'll go say, I'm in business for myself. But they don't build a business. They just side hustle it and Instagram hustle it. You know what I mean? It's not, that ain't it. It's not.
It's not gonna last. And
Nope.
I think you're right. The first 5 years are the most crucial, like crazy important parts of a business. I owned a barbershop for about 8, 9 years, 8.5 years. But I even owning a barbershop, I never really implemented business. I never really had multiple different bank accounts where I allotted different money to have taxes over here and not touch that, to have my marketing or my business expenses over here, and doing all the little different things that I now know that help me sustain a business and grow a business. So you're absolutely right on that, man. The importance of business and being able to be structured and bring in those people. Like you said, I never cut hair, so I relied on people to cut hair to do my business, and that in itself was a learning curve, because barbers aren't always the most timely people. That they want to show up when they show up, so it's kind of learning your industry too. So I can't stress that enough, coach. That is, there's a lot of value in that, man. Last thing before we wrap up, man. I truly appreciate your time. This has been a crazy, wonderful conversation with plenty of gems. But the last thing on the questionnaire that you filled out for us, man, is let alone another gem, man. And it said, I asked you, I said, what's the best advice you ever received? And you said, no one is inviting you to the big boy table, but once you earn a spot, nobody's asking you to leave. Tell me about that.
Right. So, um, I think it can go back partially to the entitlement thing I said, right? Like people expecting to be able to train this level or this person to hire them, and they really haven't done anything in this game. But also for those overly ambitious people, which is what I was. And I wanted to get to this level. I wanted to train this and I wanted to train that. And lucky for me, one of my mentors did come and talk to me about that. And he's like, look, you're good enough. It's just your opportunity hasn't come yet. And you're mad because nobody's inviting you because when you look at yourself in the mirror, you know that you're good enough. But maybe they don't know you yet, or they don't know that you're good enough. They haven't had a chance to see you in that manner or in that light. And they're not going to invite you right now. But if you keep going, you keep building yourself, you keep building value, you keep getting results, eventually you're going to work your way to that big boys table. No one's going to invite you. No one's sending a special email or a text alert. Nobody's going to invite you to the big boys table. But once you've done enough to earn your seat at the table, nobody's going to ask you to leave because they're all the same like minded kind of people, similar to what I was talking about pros earlier. They go, oh, we want this guy to sit at this table. He gives value. He's unique. He has good ideas. He wants to come help us at the table. And most of the people fighting to get a spot at the big boys table, they just want it for themselves anyway. And probably some of my ambition, maybe you felt that way too. You know what I mean? And I grew and I got to that table and I realized, okay, wow, I'm going to collaborate with these people, which actually is a form of selflessness because you got to go give to that person and then, work together. But yeah, that's what the big table means is like, or the big boy table is like earn your way to it, earn your seat, earn your right to stay there, and nobody's going to ask you to leave. But stop asking people for a handout. Stop asking and wishing it was this. When you don't have it, get up another day, put more deposits in this bank account. Not, I mean, metaphorically speaking, like give value to this person, give results to this person, go do something for somebody that wasn't asked of you, things like that. And show that commitment. And eventually you're going to find yourself at the big boys table and no one's mad when you grab a seat.
Nice. Coach, it's been an honor, my dog. This has been a wonderful conversation, bro. This has been great to catch up with you. It's been great to kind of hear kind of where your kids are at now in life and kind of what the future looks like for you, man. So it's truly been a pleasure, man. Last thing I want to say is just anybody looking to get in contact with you, is it Coach Springer on all socials? I know you're on TikTok, IG, but what is the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, for the most part, I know IG's Coach Springer. Facebook might be Tim Springer. So if it's not Coach Springer, it's Tim Springer, but it's real easy to find.
Okay.
TikTok, all that good stuff. For sure, anywhere there. If you're interested, even just finding the program, whether you have a younger kid or whatever it may be, or just even get a hold of us through the website. Even if you just go on Google and search Spartan basketball, we'll show up. There'll be a million Michigan State things too, but just put maybe Spartan basketball San Antonio. You can't help but run into us there. And yeah, anybody listening to us, I'd love to help. I mean, the more the merrier. The more we help, the more the mission is accomplished, and we continue to do our part for San Antonio basketball.
Hell yeah, Coach. I appreciate you once again, man. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right, you too, Coach.